I see that it's gone up tremendously. I'm at the gas pump, heavily taxed. How do we balance this?
You know, I think, and that's a very good question in terms of how do we find this balance? And we got to be sensitive. You're talking about the car registration, and that's a city, partly a city registration fee. You got the vehicle weight tax. You got your sewer fee. And I think, for me, the sewer fee was a great concern. When I negotiated this consent decree with our team, the federal government wanted us to do it in 10 years. And the sewer fee would have been over 10% a year. And we just said we could not afford that. So we pushed it out to 2035. It took almost a year and a half of real hard negotiation and some fighting and a breakdown of negotiations to push it down. And all I have to say is, yeah, that is a burden that we all face. But it's something that we need to do. Now, how do we lessen the burden in the future? How can we not continue to increase fees and real property taxes? And for me, it is about rebuilding our urban core. And here's the point. The Aulani Hotel, when it came online, real property taxes from that hotel, no increase in the tax rate, just an increased value, right? Because it was vacant land, you put the beautiful Disney hotel, almost $2 million additional revenue to the city in real property taxes because of the increased value. And this goes on every year. And as the values go up, the tax can even be higher. I am strongly supportive of a bunch of projects, including the Kilauea redevelopment in Waikiki. I know it's controversial. They're talking about the one tower on the beach and the one Mauka. I support the tower on the beach because I believe it's about new product to keep us more competitive in the tourism market. But I also support the redevelopment international marketplace that Queens is doing. There's a new hotel that's going to go up on the Mauka side of where Gucci is, in Waikiki, that kind of fancy shopping area. Hilton Hawaiian Village is building $3.4 billion worth of new towers between now and 2020. You got A&B doing 2 towers in the Kaka'ako area, and you got the Hughes Corporation. The point is as these projects come online, the values of real property goes up. So we, as a city, collect more in revenue, but it means we have more revenue to pave roads and fix sewers, meaning that perhaps we can keep the pressure from having to increase fees or taxes, because these developments increase real property tax values. And it creates jobs, right? Both short-term in construction, but also long-term in terms of servicing these projects. So I guess, for me, it's about how do you grow your revenue. At my law firm when I was managing partner, you can either cut costs, but pretty soon you're cutting down to the bare bone on Xerox paper and toilet paper, and we put secretaries. We used to each have a secretary. Now it's 3 lawyers for 1 secretary. The point is you can only cut so much to the bone, and then you got to grow revenue. And at my firm, it's by billing more hours, getting more clients. In the city and county of Honolulu, it's about increasing values and creating more revenue, but not through taxing. It's by creating a stronger, more vibrant economy through redeveloping our urban core, and also partnering up with business. I think the city can be a huge job creator, but most of the time we're more of a hurdle, right? The bureaucracy says, no, you can't do that, you can't do this, you got to do that first. My approach when I was at the city and for the 4 months I was mayor, I would always say, how can we get the job done? So if there's a problem with a permit, I get everyone together to figure out what needs to be done so we can keep moving forward, because I wanted to create jobs. So it kind of answers your question. I'm not going to promise we're going to reduce the sewer rates. We're not. They're going to keep staying at about 3.5. I'm hoping that what you pay in terms of registration fees will stay fixed, that our real property taxes will not go up. I'm going to work hard to keep them where they are and grow the revenue base by developing in our urban core. Really working hard, partnering up with all these projects to get them going. And I think they will get going in the next 5 years. Kind of answer your question?
Yes.
A little bit?
Yes.
Okay.
Of course, I'd like to see a decrease.
Yes, I know. But I'm not going to promise. I got my reputation. It's not my words, it's my actions. I could easily tell that to you, and then when it didn't happen, you say, you're just like all those other politicians. I don't want to be another politician. Yeah. Thanks. Yes, Linda.
Okay, I, like most of the people that I have close relationships with, unfortunately, I'm focused on rail.
Mm-hmm.
It has become the issue. And although in theory, I understand and see and support the idea of having a transit system in addition to the bus for our city, I, like most of the people that are in my close personal circle, feel that, unfortunately, it was this particular type of rail, the way that it all played out, and you know, all of that's behind us, but it very much plays into, I believe, some of the emotion surrounding how people are going to vote in this election. So I just feel like if you could share with me why I'll just say, you know, I don't like the rail the way it is, and I know so many of my family, friends, people who live on this side especially, feel that way. So there you have it. Tell me why I should support rail, because it has come down to that. I like you. I think you're smart, intelligent, engaging, and you have all of the things I would look for in our leadership.
And with this question, that'll be the last question. And then if you'd like to stay later, Kirk, I'm sure if there's other questions, you can speak to him directly.
And it's a very good question. Here's how I see it. This is the fourth time our city's tried to build a rail project. All of them elevated like this one, by the way, and this will be the fourth time. If it dies, we'll go on to the fifth time, maybe someday. And it's really hard to get these kind of projects started. I had a kind of a unique experience in that when I worked in Washington, D.C. for Dan Inouye in the 70s, D.C. was just starting to talk about the metro, which some of you probably have ridden. Same kind of issues as here. We're not going to ride it. D.C. is too hot in the summer, too cold in the winter. We've never had it. We're not a mass transit kind of town. I went back when my wife got nominated and then confirmed as the chair of the FDIC with Metro, and everyone's riding it. Everyone loves it. In places like Georgetown, we didn't want Metro because they didn't want, quote unquote, those kind of people coming up to Georgetown because it's kind of a muck-a-muck place back then. They're begging for Metro because of what it did for business. So part of it is just the natural way that these huge construction projects play out. People get worried, it's a lot of money, and early on when you're talking about it, like 4 years ago, I mean this project started in 2005, most people weren't paying attention. As you get closer to actually building it, more people pay attention and they say, why didn't you tell me this before? Actually, some of it was being said. I saw this with the super ferry. I supported the super ferry as the majority leader. I'm a Democrat, but I teamed up with Linda Lingle and said, let's get this thing, try to save it. Same thing, everyone loved the concept, but when it started sailing, the guys on Kauai didn't like it. You know, the guys in Maui didn't like it. And it ended up dying as a result, which I thought was very unfortunate. It leaves us our old way of traveling. So rail is a new concept, never seen here before. It's very expensive. And it's not a perfect system. I can't look at you in the eye and say, yes, an elevated transit is going to be beautiful. I know Peter Carlisle said it's going to be a work of art. And he was being funny. He's being funny. But no different than the freeway right here in Kahala. That's not a beautiful structure, you know, an overpass. Rail is not going to be that wide. It's 26 feet wide. It's going to be 30 feet in the air. That's hundreds of feet wide and much higher in the air. So I say this. It's not a perfect system. A perfect system should be underground. For $20 billion, we can have the perfect system. It's like we all want the perfect house, right? I want the big house with 2 acres of land, and I don't have that because you can't afford it. So we're building a system we can afford, but it's not perfect. But I think it's good. And I think if we build rail better by planting trees around it and under it, then we can mitigate some of the visual impact. But on the financing side, here's what I see. We're going to get $1.55 billion from the federal government. People say, I doubt it. Well, Barack Obama has it in his budget. Dan Inouye is committed. There's $100 million of it in the House, and I know when it gets to the Senate, Inouye is the chair of appropriations. We'll negotiate, bargain, and trade just like he has for 50 years, and he'll bring home the money for Hawaii. The excise tax we've been paying since 2007 of 0.5% is going to collect $3.4 billion, the bulk of the rest of the money. We're paying for it right now, and that tax expires, by the way, at the end on December 31st of 2022, so by its own terms. We pay that tax, but how much do you think the tourists pay? Anyone want to hazard a guess?
Every time they turn around.
Yeah, but they pay the excise tax like the rest of us. They pay 1/3 of it. So when you take the federal money that, yes, we pay federal taxes, but 330 million Americans pay that, or a portion of those. We pay the island residents, all of us in this room, about 48%. The rest is paid for by the federal government or tourists. So I say that's a pretty good deal. Of a $5.16 billion project, about 2.5 is paid by us and 2.5 is paid by someone else. And we get a system That's the beginning of an integrated transportation system. I believe it will go to Manoa. It will go to Mirilai. But just like systems throughout the world, Paris was the first one. It built this small line. You go to Paris today, it goes everywhere. Boston, the second system in the world, in our country, the first in our country, is still being built. It went to the airport when I was going to school in Boston. So it's the beginning of an integrated transportation system, and it links with the bus. In a study done by the city, an all-bus system is more expensive than a bus rail system. Because a rail is driverless and buses have drivers. 70% of the bus cost is labor. Where rail, because it's above ground, you don't need a driver in the cars, they're operated by a computer. We're going to have the first driverless rail system in our country. There's 5 in the world, but the first in our country. So it's more affordable than all bus, but it's something we're all going to subsidize, but we're going to subsidize at a lower rate than if it was just bus. And we have a system with capacity to add on to just in the 21 miles we're building right now. 20 miles. 2 cars, right now you can add up to 4. And 1 car, it takes about 4 bus loads of people. And it goes faster. 42 minutes from Kapolei to Alamona Shopping Center. No matter what's happening on the ground, no matter how hard it's raining, that's going to get people out of their cars to ride. And that's what we want to do. So that kind of answers your question. I'm telling you some of the reasons why. And I just hope, here's what I hope. I think right now, if rail wasn't an issue, I think I win. And Ben wouldn't even be running.
That's right.
Whoever wins, and let's say rail survives, it's not going to be finished in the first term of a mayor. It won't even be finished in the second term of the mayor. Everything else remains a problem. I'm passionate about everything else. You have another guy running who's just out to kill rail. Who do you want as your next person to manage the city? So I leave you with that. And I'm open, of course, to suggestions. How do we do it better? But this is part of a dream. I hope you will buy into this dream. Not only buy into it, but see that it's a better way to live in the urban core. No more paving of our Aino over with more roads, more freeways, more elevated freeways or elevated BRT things. No more of that. Different than we've done ever before. That's my hope. But thank you very much, guys. And I'll stick around for individual questions.